Following total atomic annihilation, the rebuilding of this great nation of ours may fall to you. That's why we here at Vault Boys WV will take you on an oral tour of the beautiful state of West Virginia. There's no other place to be better prepared for the impending fallout. Now we go live to our team of experts.
Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Vault Boys WV. If you didn't know, this is a weekly podcast bridging the gap between Fallout 76 and West Virginia through history, culture, and personal experiences. Some of it has references, and the rest is just our local take. From holler to highway, we've got you covered 6 days a Sunday. I am your resident Appalachian scribe, Dave Chaffins, and joining me is Mr. Tourism himself, Austin O'Connor. How you doing, Austin?
What's going on, man?
Oh, it's going well.
I like that introduction. That was powerful.
Gotta have some pep.
Had some pizzazz.
Have some pep. I've been reading some notes this week on how to make a good podcast. You know, I didn't read that when I started, but I was like, maybe there's room for improvement.
It's all about emphasis on certain words.
Right.
You really gotta
be
deliver.
You know, if the local minor league ballpark is looking to hire,
Hey, you're the man for the job.
I'm the man for the job. Yeah. If they need an organ player, though, I would also be the man for the job.
That's your pitch.
I can
fill in for either one.
I can do it all.
You're like up there, just like playing the songs, announcing, just like cracked out, just like going to town.
The local baseball bard.
You'd be like Toast Man. Have you been to the Power Games here?
No.
Wait. The guy throws toast. He
Yes.
he has a little like toaster. And I guess if they strike somebody out, he's like, you're toast. And he just throws toast at people in the crowd. It's beautiful. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah,
I haven't gone to a Power game this year, but last year we went to a bunch. Although we're going to one, we get in for free for the company that I work for.
That's
soon.
a sweet deal.
And I like that because it's free food, drinks, and alcohol. Which
cannot complain about that.
You can't complain about that. I will take up any opportunity for free food.
Mm-hmm.
Now this week, Austin, I don't know if you're aware.
Mm-hmm.
This week is a very big week. It was the conclusion in my life of another season of Bachelorette. And tonight we are starting Bachelor in Paradise. Oh, so I don't necessarily like Bachelorette. But
you seem to. You watch it every week.
Well, yeah. Well, that's
Gosh, the dedication.
You got to spend time. You got to spend time with your wife. You
that's
know, my wife sits through me playing a lot of video games, and
it's only fair.
Yeah, she's used to it, and she's very, very kind and nice most of the time about my habits, and so I try to get into this stuff. But I actually do like Bachelor in Paradise in this like weird WWE setting where I like suspend my disbelief and I'm thinking about the producers and the writers of the show.
Yeah.
Because it's a perfect setup.
Right.
It's all of the contestants, a smattering of the best contestants put on an island where at the end of each week they have to be coupled up together, and if you were not coupled up together, you were off.
So they just jump around from person to person?
Yes.
Do any of them stay together the whole time through?
Some people do, some people don't. Some people play against each other, so they'll fake like they're in a relationship.
I might have to watch this. That actually kind of sounds ruthless, and I enjoy that.
It is insane. The first time I watched it was last year, and it was the first episode. First of all, they started with a super duper over the top intro where they sing that song, Almost Paradise.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they do this stupid song.
Yeah.
And then they have the contestants do these like dumb intros. But the date that they went on, it started with them sitting at a table alone, and they're having this romantic dinner.
Yeah.
In the middle of a romantic dinner, a mariachi band comes up behind them. And this is this big Greek courtyard. Mariachi band pops up behind them, starts playing a song. And they're like, oh, and I think the producer's like, go ahead and dance. And they start like dancing a little bit, like kind of doing the salsa. Then like 80 salsa dancers come in. And this is like a small table with 2 chairs, nothing else. Big
like a flash mob.
80, it's like a flash mob of people.
Salsa
and
dancers.
It's these people that are just kind of doing this.
See, I would like that because like most flash mobs, I feel like are just very uncoordinated white people.
Yes.
So, like to have like salsa dancers come in, that would be worth.
So I'm into the production aspect of like what the writers are doing, what kind of storylines they want to play out, because they all the interviews and all the edits make it seem a certain way.
Yeah.
And so they like fake different things. And so for a whole season, you think that this one guy punched this other guy, but then you get to the actual scene where he gets hurt, and turns out he just like fell out of a bed.
Okay. Okay.
So that's been what I've been into.
I'm gonna have to start possibly getting on to that. Is it on Hulu, you think?
It's on Hulu.
I'll have to watch it.
You have it on Hulu. It's the day after. That's how we watch it.
I'll have to do that.
Speaking of things that white people love, you
I see exactly what you're looking at right now too.
You've had a nice weekend.
Yeah. I ventured to Margaritaville.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Did you get your parrot hat or
saw Jimmy Buffett? So I don't have a parrot hat. My aunt has a parrot hat.
Okay.
I think in my drunken stupor at some point, I probably wore it while we tailgated. I mean, it was a really great time. It was my 4th year in a row. It's like a family tradition. Yeah. But I really got to start watching myself when I go to these things because I looked at my bank statement yesterday, and the shirt that I have on, I spent $45 on this shirt.
It's not just for the listeners at home. It's like the kind of shirt you would get when you would participate in a philanthropy or like community event in college.
Yeah, it's got like the little like chest patch, and it says Jimmy Buffett, son of a sailor. It's got a land shark logger on it, which I'm a personal fan of. Right. And then it has a huge design on the back. But 45, I would have paid like 20. I would not be mad at myself for that.
When we saw
$45.
Alice Cooper, and that was literally just down the street from here at the Municipal Auditorium, maybe during the winter, I think. Shirts for him are like $50. It makes $60,
and people like me.
Alice Cooper's freaking old.
Like I felt bamboozled by the time So then
merch is expensive,
but it's not. I'm not done.
Oh.
Then I kept scrolling up on my statement. I bought one beer for $15, and then 20 minutes later, bought another one for $15. And I do remember they were like tall. I mean, like it was a big cup. Like they poured like a tall boy out that I could normally get for like
$2,
$1.50, $2 at the gas station. Well, I was like, all right, thank God, because after that it was like gas on the way back. Like I was like, all right, cool, made it. Pulled on my credit card statement. Bought another beer with credit card, I guess to trick my sober
yourself.
self.
You'd be like, you know what? My bank account's had. Let's leave the bank account alone. Let's go to the credit card account because those are separate.
I was like, all right. I think in my head, I was like, all right. So sober Austin is not gonna like this at all. And I was like pitting myself against myself, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna put it on the credit card. He won't even know. Oh, I found out quickly, and I'm very disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed that I would do that because I thought I was well past.
You're like parenting yourself.
Yes,
you know?
Like I thought I was well past the days of spending $45 on 3 beers and then another $45 on a T-shirt. Oh my God, I spent $90 on that stuff. Oh man, that's the reality is finally hitting me right now, and I'm having like another. Like just moment of self-loathing right now, I think. So if I look empty over here for the rest of the podcast, no, you know why.
Fine. You're fine. You look so good. It's so pretty sitting over there. You know, it's hard. It's so cute. All right, Austin, let's jump into our next segment, which will cover some news. So, Austin, there actually was a little bit of news this week, and I do not have it written down in my script, but from the updated beta frequently asked questions, it turns out that when the beta launches, your progress during the beta is going to carry over into the main game.
That's pretty sweet. I was kind of wondering. I actually, again, I've been so off the radar the last few days that I heard about this, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. So that's pretty. I think that's a pretty good idea.
Normally it's not the case. So it's clear that we're gonna get a finished product once the beta hits, and it's just gonna be. I mean, it's probably just gonna be the full game of Here you go. Here's the weekend to test it.
It's like how far. will they let you go in the beta? I'm wondering. I mean, like,
I think I have to imagine it'd be. Maybe some stuff would be locked off, like some like quests or something, or and I don't know how they're doing that, but I'd imagine it would be the full area because how could you? Because it's all kind of seamless. Like you don't want to put up invisible walls like that.
Right.
But I don't know. That's just speculation.
It's man. What's the old like in Django Leonardo DiCaprio who's like. You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention because I am very intrigued now.
Yeah. So another piece of news that I know just from how we play Fallout, you're on PS4 and Xbox. That's what you have. I have a PS4 and a Nintendo Switch, even though the Fallout is not coming to Nintendo Switch. I still love me some Nintendo. We don't play on the PC. The last PC game that I played was Binding of Isaac and CSGO in college. And that was just, and Left 4 Dead. And that was just because everybody got together in the study rooms and brought their crappy laptop and played, these games that you could just kind of play whatever. So even though we're not involved in the community, it still needs to be said that the Fallout 76, about said New Vegas, Fallout 76 is not going to be on Steam. It's going to be on their own publishing client through Bethesda. So if you're planning on getting the game on Steam, it's not going to be there. I know a lot of people are upset with that. I personally, I don't have an opinion because I don't use that service. So I'll leave it at that. I don't think you necessarily have an opinion with that. But at least as far as news, that's what happened.
They're going to go completely separate.
There are no hot takes from me.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think about the news, the whole Fortnite stuff, kind of similar. They're not going to go through
Google Play.
the Google Play Store. They're just going to have it completely separate from their website.
Yep.
That's interesting.
If you're that big, you don't really need. You have the biggest game. I mean, essentially the biggest game in the world right now. You don't really need it.
You can do what you want when nobody can beat your ass. Basically, like you kind of live how you want to live.
So with this week kind of being, I knew it was kind of be a little slow and that we're going to get a lot of news this weekend. I wanted to, essentially, I asked you to gather 3 questions that are your most dire questions that you have for Fallout 76. And they have a panel that's coming up where not necessarily these questions, although I hope in some form or fashion these questions are answered, but we've essentially gathered some questions that we're going to discuss a little bit more, probably speculate a little bit on, and talk to him. So I'll go ahead and read off my top 3.
Okay.
My number 1 is, what does the community support look like as far as a content roadmap, updates to the game, seasonal events? So when I say that, a lot of games as a service, which is what Fallout 76 is has a similar setup for, have like weekly updates where they have, these are the smaller events going on today. This month we're doing this big event and it's for this week and you have access to these different things. Also, they clue you in on bug fixes and their like overall content additions, even though I think the Fallout team has said that they're not planning on any major DLC additions. And of course, that could change. I'm not sure, but that's the biggest question that I have. What do you think about as far as community support and their content roadmap?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of like wondering the same thing.
So have you really like played a games as a service kind of game? Have you done like Destiny or The Division?
I really haven't. That's the thing. It's
Fortnite is starting to get that way.
Fortnite, it's starting to. I've been for the longest time meaning to jump into Destiny, but again, I'm kind of with you on like, it's like I think it'll be interesting to see exactly how this plays out and what kind of route they go with different things, but it's so hard to tell. That's like, I'm still kind of thrown for a curveball that the whole saved progress thing. So I'm wondering like what other kind of like curveballs are going to throw at us with some stuff and how everything's going to kind of play out.
So like with the new updates for different games and different features, a lot of companies are setting up a space for them to officially communicate weekly with players in order to, or monthly, bi-weekly, whatever schedule. There's a method of doing that of kind of almost giving like a little state of the game each week. And so I'm curious if they have any plans for that or what, once the game is released. Obviously, I'm excited for the game, what that looks like. And I think that'll be very telling to see if the game, if they do and it's well implemented. I mean, this game, people are going to be playing this game for years.
Yeah. And I think just the updates they'll be able to do and just make sure all the patches are so consistent. Like, this is going to be, it's like as much as I hated at first the thought of online only, I just feel like it's just in the long run going to be something that's much more playable for much longer. It's just, I feel like it's going to be more fresh. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So do you have any questions?
The biggest thing that I've just been kind of wondering was in terms of like the DLC, which I know you kind of just briefly talked about that, but I haven't really read that much into it. You might be able to answer this in terms of like how much have they talked about the DLC?
Apparently, and I've been told this online several times. They have no plans for DLC right now.
Yeah, right. I think that's the last thing I had.
I'm very curious, and I would pitch them DLC that would fit. I have a very, south of the West Virginia border, there's a little town called Bluefield, and there's also this town called Blacksburg that is a lot similar to another university. Excuse me, Blacksburg houses Virginia Tech, which is kind of the competing university with MIT. And what Fallout game had MIT in it? Fallout 4. What do they make sense? What are they non-human? Especially in their first gen. So
juicy. This is getting good.
So, I mean, at that point, you already have those models. You already have everything. You have how those enemies work. That's a whole different little area that you can incorporate down on the bottom. Just push that up, and there you go. Yep. You've got sense. And there's even rumors at Virginia Tech of underground research facilities. So, there.
Bethesda, if you're listening. Hit David up.
Hit me up.
Get an invoice going.
I'll pitch you some really trash stuff. It'll be great.
That's actually like a good. I like that though. Blacksburg and Virginia Tech.
Well, you could have like I in my head, it's like if I don't know if Bluefield's in the game or not, but you could do Bluefield and have Bluefield West and Bluefield Virginia, and then you could have two rival factions of ghouls that all wear, like, one wears blue football uniforms, the other one has red football uniforms, and they're always fighting.
I want a DLC where you can, like, go to Tudor's and eat a biscuit and then go to the state fair and get really, really sick on, like, one of the rides. That's all I want. State fair's coming up this weekend, man. Like, I want that. I want to be able to eat a Mary
honestly,
B.
I want that, too.
I want to be able to eat, a Mary B or a Thundering Herd biscuit and then just live my life.
When I first moved back here, I'd even like growing up within striking distance of Tudor's Biscuit World, I've never had a biscuit.
Well, it was in like Bluewell too, so that was a little bit like you're never really out that way.
So the first night I moved here, they were like, "You should get yourself Tudor's." I was like, so I think maybe the first night I had Qdoba. Because I was like, I need something familiar, and I'll get something. They were like, you need to have a Tudor's Biscuit World biscuit. And so I had the Thundering Herd, which I think is like, I don't know, every biscuit they all have hash browns on top of whatever meat, cheese, and egg, everything. And I had that, and I was sick for a day.
Really?
Like, it was just so much grease. Now, when I go to Tudor's Biscuit World, I only order a bacon biscuit.
Really?
I only order.
Let me just change your life real quick.
I'm not gonna go ahead. Let me hear what you have to say.
You can get what's called the Miner, MINER, as in a coal miner. It's a beautiful, succulent, even biscuit that they put 2 hash browns on it, and then some bacon, and then they drizzle all this melted cheese on it. So when you really, really, really want to feel absolutely terrible about yourself, but also feel satisfied, just go get a minor, dude. Like, it's the best, worst, but most amazing feeling when you finish one.
I don't condone that. I think the Tudor's Biscuit world is a lot like smoking cigars. And if the first
like the
one,
most accurate.
the first one you do, like, you're gonna go get like a black and mild from the gas station. And you're gonna be like, this is good. Everybody likes a wood tip black and mild wine flavored, like,
just a
some
little,
like
something
high
to
school,
enjoy.
college, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna start off with something real crazy. So for me, for now, and I don't know if I ever graduated from it, just the bacon biscuit is perfectly fine in my book.
Okay. Well,
It's a lot of bacon on there.
I'll tell you this. I can only eat maybe 1 or 2 a year of the minors. There's like, I think it's like a WTCR or something like that. It's like the bigger version of it. I think the minor is the smaller version. It could be flip-flopped. But the very first Tudor's Biscuit World ever was right next to my apartment in Huntington, right near Marshall's campus. And I would walk past it every day, and I never stopped. And one day, the temptation was just whispering in my ear. I was like, come inside. So I went in, and I just pretty much injected melted cheese right into my veins. And pretty much from that day on through like the next year of college, I was constantly there. And then I wondered why I put on like an extra 10 pounds that semester. The minor got me.
Yeah, for me, it was having a Qdoba on campus.
Oh, that's dangerous. See, we had Chick-fil-A,
and
and that was
then
bad enough.
when I moved to West Virginia, my first apartment was right across the street from a McDonald's.
Yep, Kroger and McDonald's.
And the Kroger, yeah. It is too much access.
Too much sauce.
And not enough places to walk in Cross Lanes, West Virginia. That's
No,
for sure.
cross lanes, you're kind of just there.
All right, so we got to talking about the first question, and we really don't have time to get to 2 and 3. Good thing, because for me, those weren't as good, and frankly, been more boring than talking about some Tudor's Biscuit World.
I'm really hoping that everybody's encouraged now to go test out Tudor's Biscuit.
Here's what I need you to do. I need you to go listen to some Jimmy Buffett while you're watching Bachelor in Paradise, eating a Tudor's Biscuit World biscuit.
Yep.
That's a great way to feel terrible.
Man. Listen, leave Jimmy Buffett out of this.
All right.
It's an American hero.
We'll move on to the next segment. Austin, this week I want to cover a topic that I am personally very close to as of recently. It was something that I did right before we started recording our first episode of the podcast. And I got to experience and get out in the field. I've had some opportunities to get out in the field, and I'm bringing you the hottest takes from the field. Because this week, we were talking about one of the big topics, just like every week, but this one is even bigger, and it's called the Greenbrier Resort, Hotel, and Spa.
Which I was thoroughly excited to see at the end of the trailer.
Yes.
That was like the big moment for me where I was like, oh my God. Like I like started to freak out at that point. And
You
then
knew it
rewatched
was real.
about 15 more times.
You knew it was real.
I
when
don't
they
think
showed
it struck with me that it was West Virginia, even though I saw all these places until I was like, oh shit, that's the Greenbrier. Like we're panning up at the Greenbrier.
Once they showed the bridge, I was like, "Oh, this is West Virginia."
Yeah.
And then the Greenbrier was like the final nail in the coffin. Where I was like,
and
"Yeah,
it was like
we're going West
surprisingly very colorful. I was like, okay, so something good is happening there.
and there was like robots walking
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, so very futuristic, which I mean, the Greenbrier is like very colorful. Jim Justice has had the state capitol flowers now planted very similarly to the Greenbrier, which is known for its wide array of colors and different, flowers and arrangements of pretty much everything outside. So,
So I'm gonna start off with a little bit of history of stuff that I learned this week that I didn't know. And then we're going to have a discussion about my recent visit to the Greenbrier Hotel Resort, Spa, Casino, all around big, beautiful green and white place.
just passed it last weekend.
All right. So the Greenbrier is in White Silver Springs, West Virginia. And White Silver Springs was originally the location of a spa resort that began in the 1770s at the same location that the Greenbrier is at now. A local woman said that the springs there cured rheumatism after bathing in the springs. The original springs contained sulfurized hydrogen gas. The spring was originally covered by a dome pavilion with a statue of Hygeia, which I think I'm butchering, which is the Greek goddess of healing. It was written about a good deal during the 1800s as well. Dr. William Burke originally claimed that the springs healed, and I'm going to butcher every single one of these, dyspepsia, hepatitis, fever, rheumatism, cutaneous diseases, and uterine derangements. But many would speak against these claims.
We've got a fix for the fast food workers across America now.
Yeah.
Said hepatitis was on that?
Yeah, hepatitis.
Dude, just send them to White Sulphur Springs.
Send them to White Sulphur Springs. You got a UTI? Go to White Sulphur Springs.
Dude, it's got every need.
So the resort itself also changed hands many times during the Civil War between the Union and Confederate Army. And so they would occupy, the Union would occupy it, then the Confederacy would take over, they would occupy, Union would occupy, back and forth, back and forth. But after the Civil War...
after a couple of switches. Like,
Yeah,
it's us again. We're back.
We're back, yeah. But after the Civil War, it was the site of a few post-war reconciliations, including the White Sulphur Manifesto, which was the only political position issued by Robert E. Lee after the Civil War. He advocated for the merging of two societies in that manifesto. In 1913, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railways opened the Greenbrier Hotel, a new mineral bath, and an 18-hole golf course now called the Old White Course. In its first year, President Woodrow Wilson spent his Easter there. During World War II, it was originally used to house, German, Japanese, and Italian diplomats so that they could be traded for their American counterparts in Axis countries. The property was later purchased by the U.S. Army in 1942 and was used to house 2,000 soldiers through their bed, hospital, and rehabilitation center. The railways reacquired the property in 1946 and commissioned an interior renovation by famous designer Dorothy Draper. Dorothy invented a style known as modern Baroque. This used dramatic colors in her trademark cabbage rose chintz. She was liberal in her use of contrasting color schemes, and numerous mirrors. She was commissioned to design the cafeteria for the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is where they host the Met, in 1954. And in 1957, she redid the International Hotel at Idlewild Airport, which is now JFK Airport. World-famous golfer Sam... I have Sneak, but I know it's Sam Snead, returned as the resort's premier golf pro, and even after his retirement, was named Golf Pro Emeritus until his death in 2002. Sam had 82 PGA tournament wins that included 7 major championships, which are U.S. Open, British Open, the PGA Tour Championship, and the Masters.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's all right.
Very famous. So that's kind of a good lead up to where I can, again, pick up history. But I kind of want to talk to you about a few things, including the fact that they took all of the German, Japanese, and Italian diplomats and put them in the hotel.
It's like that's like a pretty good place if you're going to be captured and stored, I guess, for a while. Like, hey, we're in a pretty nice resort.
Come to our hotel.
If you need extra towels, we've got them downstairs.
Because that main building, the one you see in the trailer, was the original building that everybody was.
So it was
in.
always. I mean, I would assume it might not have been as luxurious as it is now, but still, if I'm gonna be taken prisoner, it's probably on the top of the list of places I'd want to be. I mean, that's a pretty nice place, regardless of what year it is. So, I think they were probably living all right. Mm-hmm. I mean, pretty comfortably.
Yeah. So, a month ago, it's been about a month, I went down there and with the expressed opinion of going on a bunker tour. Now, I just walked in there as a guy off the street with my wife. I was just in shorts and t-shirt. I was like, I want to go on a bunker tour. They were like, okay, what's your room number? I was like, I can pay with credit card. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. So we got on and we started our little tour.
How much is it to tour it?
It They're rather expensive.
Like Jimmy Buffett T-shirt expensive or like?
It was about. I mean, what was that? 45? Did you
45.
say? I think it was like 38 or maybe 70. It's 38 or 70. No, for one. I think it was 70.
You say 38 or 70?
Yeah, I can't remember.
That's a big difference.
I can't remember. I remember looking at my bank.
Okay, I might win this one with the purchase, with like the purchases over.
Maybe, but I remember looking at my bank account and being like, "That's a little expensive." But anyways, so we start the tour, and we're on that first ground level, and they take us around the corner, and they're like, "Okay, look out! You can see the West Virginia wing on the back, and it's up on a hill." And the lady was like, "So, the bunker was actually built into the side of the hill, and we're going to go into the bunker. Now, on your way to the bunker,
which surprise, spoiler alert for the listeners, there's a bunker at the Greenbrier that held the president. All right.
Yeah, maybe I should have covered that.
I didn't think about that. But yeah, so the president during really throughout several decades, I guess, from like the definitely around the cold.
Are you saying that it's a presidential bunker? It is not a presidential bunker.
It's not just the presidential bunker?
No. It is the Congressional bunker, Austin. That means that it can house every single member of Congress, the Senate, and an aide, and then was upgraded to include some family members as well.
So it wasn't the presidential bunker.
It's one of the largest American bunkers.
My life has
been revealed.
I was like always like, yup, presidential bunker. I learned something today.
Yes.
That's
okay. It is the Congressional bunker. And so it was, I believe, and I have some extra material here. Essentially, Dwight Eisenhower came down, met with the Greenbrier president and also it's now CSX. It used to be called something else, but the railroad company was like, hey, I want to build a bunker. So
super secretive.
He went down for this like meet and greet, kind of like chilling out, but secretly made this deal. And then the concrete started rolling in. And if you're building a bunker, you gotta have a lot of concrete. And so these concrete trucks were rolling into this very small town in West Virginia. And everybody was like, what the heck is going on?
The workers were like pouring it, like, what exactly are we doing right now?
They thought that they were building conference space for the West Virginia wing.
Well, that was was it in the piece that exposed the whole thing that I guess the guy was interviewed and he said
I can talk to you more about that here in a bit. But they started the bunker, I think, let's see, the construction began in 1958. It's 112,000 square feet, and it's about 720 feet underground, under the hill. It was a lot of concrete, and it was completed in 1961. And in 1962, if you didn't know, was also the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that one was when the bunker was most ready to go. It has a few different blast doors, but the main one is a 25-ton blast door that only needed 50 pounds of pressure to open.
That's impressive.
So this bunker, and I'll kind of get there as we go through this. So we're on this tour, and this lady's like, so we're going to go to the bunker. First thing you're going to notice as you go through it, and on the walls, there are all of these Dorothy Draper wallpaper-esque kind of things. He said, you're going to notice something. The wallpaper is going to change slowly but surely. And that is a misdirection in which the government put place so that people wouldn't realize where they are and would feel uncomfortable with where they are. And so on your way to the bunker door, the wallpaper changes. All the pretty rose and cabbage and different designs go away, and it's this like shining style wallpaper that is all these different shapes that is kind of dull and doesn't stand out very well, but makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So to get to the bunker, guess what? You have to go to the second floor of the hotel.
I feel like it's all starting to come back to me now. I went when I was a kid, but now I'm interested again because I've forgotten all of this.
You've forgotten all of it, yes. So you go to the second floor of the hotel, which was by design so that people would be tricked to say, well, there's not a bunker here, you know. If it would be here, Well, this is just the second floor.
Yeah.
So we go up there and we see the bunker door. And the bunker door opens up into this very stark white room. And it's like a big room, like a conference space. And so what happened was the door to the vault is open 24/7. They just made a fake wall to put it behind. And the bunker itself is open to the public for use as a conference space. So people come in and out of the bunker every single day, all through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
I had no idea.
And had no clue. So there was full conferences in this bunker. So they had different rooms within the bunker. So the first thing were they had 2 meeting rooms. Now, the 2 meeting rooms that they had were for, of course, Congress and Senate. They had to put max occupancy for those rooms for fire marshal code standards. But instead of having I think it's 100 for Senate and maybe 400 something for Congress, they inflated the numbers artificially so that you wouldn't recognize that there were 2 rooms that just happened to have the same number for Senate and Congress members. So that's within the area that you can go, and you could have walked in there and you wouldn't have known anything. But the back of every single chair had a little jack for a microphone, and so you could have a mock Congress by just like plugging in a microphone into the jack, and everybody could speak and be heard just like you would the normal congressional way.
Thought of everything.
So there was the main door. That main door you came in that's through the hotel is smaller, and it's not necessarily. It's the size of a normal like wall in a room. Like it's pretty concealable. But they took us down a shaft that had that huge 25-ton door, and it was one of the biggest doors I've ever seen, and it was solid. I mean, it was like. It felt like the vault doors in Fallout, where it wasn't circular in design; it was square.
Right.
But
to see it in person, I'm sure
it felt like the kind of thing that you would see.
Oh yeah.
So we see the door, and we're like, okay, and we're like, how did all of this, like, what did they do? And so, like, how did they keep all this secret, essentially? So the government hired groups of intelligence workers by way of a contractor called Forsyth and Associates. Now, Forsyth and Associates, what they did was they had an office in the conference space, and they were TV repairmen for the hotel. But they also were the ones that managed the entire bunker as well. So to the people of White Silver Springs and the Greenbrier Hotel, they were just TV repairmen. But in their little office, they had a secret door that could go back into the restricted areas of the bunker. So the restricted areas of the bunker there was a door in plain sight, and it was locked, but they had artificially made the hallway darker, and the light was continually broken. And they had security cameras everywhere. And if somebody came near that door, one of the TV repairmen would happen to pass by and be like, "Oh, hey, are you lost? Oh, yeah, let me help you out. How you doing?" And give you the talk and take you to where you need to go. So behind that door is where all the stuff is. So once you go behind that door, you were in the bunker. And the bunker itself housed every single member of Congress and every single member of the Senate and their aides. And I think eventually was upgraded so that some family members. The bunker could not take a direct hit from a bomb, but was able to, through the mountains and the different geography and topology, was able to sustain a large amount of fallout from the radiation that would happen. Fallout. So all of the stuff behind there, you had a media room, which we went into, and it was a picture of a giant mural of the Congressional building in D.C. That the iconic building when you go into D.C. It had a mural of that, and they would stand in front of this mural, and would give broadcasts. And the interesting thing about the mural, it was like old technology so that they could change the time of day just by the color and how they shot it with the lightning. So it could be like morning, evening, stormy, however they wanted it, just by the lighting and the camera angle that they had on it. And so when they would communicate with the American public, they would stand in front of that mural and give their speeches. They also had one for the president that had the same thing there because in the event of a national disaster, president may be dead. Vice president may be dead. So who's the president? Speaker of the House. Where does Speaker of the House stand? In the congressional bunker. So
they would need,
they have another one that's the White House that does the same effects and everything. So there's that. There are their dormitories that they stayed in, which were essentially like metal bunk beds that they piled up everybody in. They had, as you entered, they would send you to decontamination showers. And so those look like out of a horror movie.
Oh, sure.
They have these showers that come down, and you got to go through that and take off all your clothes, and they incinerate everything that you have and give you a standard uniform, a la Vault suit.
Look at that.
And then you're free to go out unless there was an issue, of course. In the main hallway, they also have their security room where they would have riot gear, and they would stock a lot of their medicine. And so the number one medication that they had, what do you think was?
Number one medication that they had. Don't tell me this. Was Viagra around back then?
No. Well, what would you need that for?
What would the number one thing be?
Antidepressants.
Ooh.
Because originally a lot of them would be separated from their families, and they would always be separated from their friends. So,
that's true. I guess I also didn't realize that antidepressants were that big back then.
Yeah. They would stock it up so that they could keep the population docile.
Yeah.
Because they were afraid that I think it was they could function for, it's a few weeks and they had fresh food, but after then they just had rations, like military rations, which are super duper. I've never had one, but apparently are not very tasty.
Yeah. That's kind of like a depressing thought, though. It's like, man, I guess if you're in that situation, it's like, well, the world's basically over, so we're...
So these Forsyth guys would come in this back way, which was a vault door in the back, and it had this particular water cooling air conditioning system where they were running hot water and cold water through the pipes, and it was keeping the air circulating outside of the pipes because of the running water and making air conditioning for the building, so the building would stay cool. Without using any outside air because that could be contaminated.
That's pretty sweet. Cool. Oh, wow.
They had full generators. They had a boiler room. They had all the different amenities. They had a kitchen there that if you went into and looked at the dining room floor was painted or tiled in a way to look uneven. And they did that in particularly because the cafeteria couldn't house every single member of the bunker at the same time. So when you would go in there and look at the floor, you would be like, I feel a little uneasy. I don't want to stay in here too long. The feng shui is not right in here.
Yeah.
And you would eat your food quickly and then leave.
A lot of psychological...
There was a lot of psychological elements to the design of all of it and keeping it all secret. Now, I have a hot take, Austin. So I've kind of given you a little bit of background on the bunker. I would encourage you, if you're ever in West Virginia, it's well worth whatever I paid to go.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, it might be a little pricey, but
go
it's
and tour.
Awesome.
I have a brochure here. I'm going to post some pictures this week on the different social medias so that you can see some of the pictures. You're not allowed to take pictures in there, also because... there's some extra stuff going on in there that I'll talk about here in a minute.
Ooh.
So, I think it was 1992, and there was this reporter for the Washington Post, Ted Gupp, and he exposed the Greenbrier. Now, the hot take, and I'm not allowed to say the name of who told me this, but Ted may have actually exposed the Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center in Virginia that was the presidential bunker. They thought that he had a story, and by the person that told me this, the government knew that he had a story, and they contacted him. And I said, we don't want to reveal the presidential bunker because that's like patriotic, you know?
Yeah.
Tell you what,
We'll give you this.
we have the Congressional bunker. We'll give that to you, and you can break that story. So they essentially, from a small conspiracy, gave him the Congressional bunker, and through the Washington Post, broke the story that there was a bunker there.
What if he didn't even have a story and they somehow like this dude's like the laziest reporter ever but they think he has a story and he gets this phone call one day telling him this stuff and he's just sitting here like wide-eyed like yeah, I did have a story. Yep, you're right. And they just give him the bunker and he just lucked into the biggest story. I just like wonder like I mean like did he go missing like 2 months later? Like did anything happen to this guy? That's a big secret.
He was hated by people. People didn't think that he was being very patriotic when he released the story. It was like, well, why are you giving away government secrets?
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like we want to know this stuff because that's awesome, but at the same time, he's a snitch. Like you can't really. Right. I mean, that's
and a lot of other papers happened to pick up the story before. Ted did, and so it is theorized that a guard at this Mount Weather facility was mad about it and called other papers as well to give them the lowdown, the scoop on the story. And they published their stories before, but he was ultimately credited as being the reporter. All the other stories were there's a bunker in West Virginia that houses Congress, and he had the full
on descriptive. I mean, that's got to be as kind of shady as it is that you're going to release that. That's got to be an exhilarating feeling knowing, like, I cracked this. Like, I'm about to release this. But the Greenbrier really can't be that. I think the Greenbrier should be happy because now they're going to be able to profit off it, like, for the last, 20 some years. Like,
so would it be crazy to you if I told you that the Greenbrier actually didn't own the vault?
Do they not?
Nope.
What? Who does?
Who made the deal back in the day?
Oh.
CSX Railroad.
So they own it.
So the
Greenbrier gets no profit from it?
They profit from it.
I guess like a partnership type of thing with it.
They are allowed to.
True. Wow.
So now, the bunker was found out. They had to decommission it, and so they spent a good amount of time decommissioning because they were like, okay, Cold War's over. We're going to decommission it, and this is only a fallout shelter. So obviously they are going to build more areas. And I think I read an article this past week that was like in DC there was this like large amount of construction based around the time that the 9/11 after the 9/11 attacks happened, where they built a lot of interesting underground structures in the DC area that were close enough so that if something happened, they didn't have to, go all the way to
Greenbrier County.
Right. So they had to decommission it, and then for the first week, they allowed all of the hotel workers and the town residents of White Silver Springs to come tour, and nobody else could tour because it was happening in their backyard. And they were mad. And they were like, these hotel workers, unless you work for Forsyth and Associates, had no idea that this is going on.
Working, right.
Even a president of the Greenbrier previously was trying to figure out what was going on with. He was like, how are our bills this much? What our spreadsheets aren't lining up. There's something wrong with the power. And he got pretty close to finding out about it. And then 2 men in black suits showed up, and they were like, you need to stop asking questions. And they were like, well, why? This is my books. And they were like, okay, we can clue you in.
Yeah, I mean, that... Men in Black.
Men in Black.
That would be a terrifying sight to see.
So after it was toured by the town guests, and it was open for everybody, and now you can go on tours of it today. But the major property of the Greenbrier is actually owned by CSX Railroad now, because they were the ones that originally brokered the deal, and they had no idea that it was their property this whole time that the government had it. Even the initial broker knew that, but the company had no clue. And they were like, wait, so we own this property and we were paying tax even though it was the government, they collected the tax and they returned it. So like there was no big issue, but they were like, we don't know what to do with this property. Well, it turns out about that time, this big beast called the internet was coming up. So they developed their own separate division for server and data management for IPs. So that it is a big server farm and database storage area that they have that meets the regulations for like the most sensitive data in the world because it's underground in this concrete area, like vaulted in the side of this hill, that they have the proper security there to house all of this data. And so for the areas that you don't see in the tour, they utilize that as server farms. And even in the tour guides have employee badges for CSX. Even though they're not employed by it, they're employed by the hotel.
Wow.
They have certain clearance. But everything is still, you can't go walking around in there, including you cannot bring your cell phones or take any pictures, because that's a stipulation that they have. And if you do that, you could be sued by, if you don't have the proper clearance, you could be sued by CSX.
There's that. I think I said in a previous episode, I feel like it's a weird reverse psychology thing there. Like, I feel like there's still something going on there that like, if something happened, they would still use it. Like it's like hiding in plain sight. It's like they've made this known, so everyone's like, oh, they wouldn't use it. I just feel like there's something else there that they're still. I don't know. I'm just probably. I'm basically like turning into Alex Jones right now. Like these weird folks. They've got this down there, and I'm telling you, like just like I'm about to go on some crazy rant right now. But like it's like I swear to you, I think there's something still going on down there.
It's a facility and it's there, and the bones of it are still there. The meat of it is all gone. Like there's no meat to it. It's still used as a conference space. They have conferences there all the time. It's open. You can just walk. You can walk in there. Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. There's not a Forsyth and Associates employee that's gonna come track you down. But I mean, everything is locked off by security. Yeah. Just so you can't really get anywhere. But maybe you can still
Folks, hear me out. Hear me out, folks.
They added
under the bunker.
It's just 2 floors, and so they could have, maybe they added more, but then they would have to do all the construction.
Under hole 3 on Old White, there's a 4-room bunker.
There's a series of moles that have become intelligent, and they are tracking the water supply.
The water supply, messing with the frogs.
Messing with the frogs. Here we go. All right. Well, so that's kind of my experience from the tour, and I wanted to kind of talk about what I learned more from going through that. This is a subject that I think would be no fun if I gave all the details, because it's worth going to see, and it's worth.
There's mystery to it,
right? And so
even if they tell you exactly what everything is, what it did.
And every tour guide is different. Yeah. And so the one I had was really fantastic. But
there's still that sense of like just sort of wonder and amazement, I feel like, when you realize like, man, this was hidden under everyone's nose for that long.
Right.
And it makes you kind of wonder what else is hidden under our noses in different places. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that's not the only one. I mean, obviously there are bunkers.
There's still you've still got because you always have 3. You have your judiciary, legislative, and executive bunkers.
So they're somewhere,
and the government has to continue.
Yep. They have to be somewhere near DC, I would think, within that type of radius that Lewisburg is. So
you would think. With that, Austin, I'm going to move into some speculation here. So, obviously, Fallout 76 has the Greenbrier. Mm-hmm. As far as Cold War secrets, and in particular, Todd Howard mentioning Cold War secrets, it'd be safe to say that there is a bunker at the Greenbrier.
They would be missing out on a good opportunity if there wasn't.
What is in that bunker, Austin?
I don't know.
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
So, that bunker was used to house the American government, correct? Mm-hmm. In the Fallout universe, who is the American government? It would be the Enclave.
So maybe that's the home of...
So you have the president, AI.
Yeah.
It's in D.C. And they talk about over the radio that they have Congress waiting to go.
Ooh.
My theory, and I don't know, if it's government use, it's going to be the Enclave.
It has to.
In the Fallout lore, the Enclave was kind of a shadow organization before. That was kind of like the American, almost Illuminati. And they're the ones that had Vault Tech construct the vaults and do the weird experiments on everybody. And they were all very tied to the American government, so that when they went into the vaults, they were properly prepared. So I would be curious in seeing those robots around the outside. They would have to be protecting something, because you wouldn't just have robots.
True. Everything's very well maintained there.
And there's supposed to be no human NPCs in the game. So I would imagine that the robots would be what the Enclave uses.
Yeah. This is like opening my mind right now. This is kind of crazy. That's a very good theory. I would stand behind that.
Because we've seen in trailers these like small, tiny robots called Liberators, and it's like, okay, what are they doing? And what does the Enclave do? They liberate America. How do they liberate America? By killing everything that is not pure human.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited to see. Even if it's not that, and it's just there's a vault under the Greenbrier, I think that would be cool to explore. Even if they don't. But you got to think there's something of importance there.
I honestly think that it will be tied to the main quest in some way.
It's too prominent to not be. And the fact that had one of the biggest shots of the whole trailer. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason. There's the reason.
And
they
even
put emphasis on it.
The documentary, Daniel Dwyer from the guys at No Clip said that he didn't want to spoil anything in relation to the Greenbrier. Yeah. So we know that there is something
there.
Right.
They're teasing us.
So Austin, I'll move into our next segment here and kind of tie off this little history bit with our musician of the week. And this week I have somebody a little bit more current. It is a man called Landau Eugene Murphy. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, he's a very, very nice individual.
Good.
I've met him before.
So he's a native of Logan, West Virginia, and is the son of a coal miner. He was born in 1974 and dropped out of school in the 11th grade became homeless at the age of 19. In 2010, Murray traveled to New York City to audition for the televised talent show America's Got Talent. He performed I've Got You Under My Skin by Frank Sinatra and took the crowd by surprise. He continued performing jazz classics and won with his performance of Sinatra's My Way. He went on to record his debut album, That's Life, in 2011 and released the single Come Home to West Virginia in 2016. He's headlined a show at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas and toured the U.S., as well as completing a residency at the Greenbrier Resort. So I got to see him, not this past July 4th, but the previous one to that.
He's so good.
He was down in the river, and it was a good show.
Yeah, he's just a very, I've been around him a few times because he used to sing at Marshall games, for the national anthem, or he would come to events and stuff, and he just seems like a genuinely just good dude, and he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see someone come out of Logan, West Virginia, which for people that don't know, people that aren't from West Virginia, Logan is very like back in the mountains. Like, I mean, it's back there. So like to have someone with that type of talent that can sing Sinatra and these like classics.
I mean, a breakout success in an art form that's not necessarily popular.
Yeah. I mean, I know, well, this is very I'm stereotyping, but there's a lot of like country music roots there. So to have, like you said, to have that come out of that location is very rare and very, very cool to see. So I've always been a fan. Ever since I saw that original like America's Got Talent, like it just seems he's a good person to root for.
He had a little bit of a controversy a few years ago where he was involved in a domestic abuse case.
Yeah, I heard about that, and it was very.
I'd be reproved not to mention that, just in the sake of transparency for him. But
which I mean, people can do one way in the public, and then
the charges were dismissed.
Right,
it didn't reach court. It was settled out of court.
I remember that now. It was very, very strange, like kind of a weird. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you never know. People in the public versus their private life. I mean, you never know what's going on.
So I'll move up into our next section. That's for Catch Up and Community. So this week I have, 2 announcements for you this week. The first announcement is that we have a website. And the website is very simple. It is a place where you can get to anything that you need to related to the podcast. So it has a bunch of links to our different services, as I've talked about before, iTunes, Google, so on and so forth. All of those different services you can get the podcast, as well as connections to our 3 social media sites that we use, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our email. And you can get to all that through our little site that we've created. The next one is partnerships. So be on the lookout in the coming weeks. We're doing some cross-promotion with some different shows, talking to some different people. If you see our name out there, stop by, comment, say hello. But we're doing a few things different, trying to involve ourselves in the community more. With that being said, I'll jump into a segment that we'd like to call Reader Mail here. We have an email this week. Whew. So this is from Randy. He says, loving the podcast. I want to see local foods incorporated into Fallout 76. What is your take on Rad Roach pepperoni rolls?
Sounds delicious.
So, if you don't know, pepperoni rolls are like
the food of our people.
The food of our people. It's probably the only thing that is above Tudor's Biscuit World.
Yeah, which I would put it like up here, Tudor's here, but like it's very, very good.
So, pepperoni rolls came around in 1920 and are thought to be invented by Giuseppe Aguirre, who was an Italian immigrant. He worked in the mines, then opened a bakery where he would bake pepperoni rolls and bake pepperonis in bread dough. He would sell them to miners on their way to work, and the dish soon became a staple of West Virginia lunches. Originally, he would sell them by the dozen for 45 cents.
Was it Grafton, I think, was where he was? I believe it was Grafton, West Virginia. Fairmont. Well, it's...
Get your city straight. So... I'd be interested to see what they're going to do with food, because obviously that's going to be a big thing since there is a food and water gauge, like what kind of recipes they're going to have for different things and what you're going to make out of these kooky, crazy monsters. Like sloths and molemen.
Hashtag that's my sloth.
Hashtag that's my sloth. And the strange animals that you seem to... The spider beehive?
Yeah, that was... I have a lot of questions.
I'm curious to see what you'd be able to make. I would love to see some sort of pepperoni roll-esque food in the game. I would love to see something related to Tudor's Biscuit World.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
In the game. But with pepperoni rolls, so Austin, what place do you get your favorite pepperoni? Well, what's your favorite pepperoni roll? Who makes it?
So I have some really out of the ordinary ones. The West Virginia State Capitol Grill at the Dome building that I go to a lot for lunch make homemade pepperoni rolls. Delicious. but the 2 wild cards: Sheets, gas station, supplies, pepperoni rolls. I'm not sure where they get them from.
They get them from West Virginia because there was a controversy that they weren't going to get them from West Virginia, and then the people of West Virginia
We're like,
revolted.
yeah, we got to get these.
And then
They're so good.
Gas
Different types
stations.
of cheeses and spicy, blah blah blah, whatever. I mean, so good. But the OG, the one that's most near and dear to my heart, not my favorite anymore, but near and dear to my heart, was the school cafeteria lunches.
I'm telling you, man, every single person I ask,
so good.
every single person I've asked, and I'm very interested in pepperoni rolls because I have an idea for a food truck that if this podcast, doesn't take off and I'm, low and broke somewhere, that's what I'm going to use is sort of pepperoni roll food truck. But I've asked what their favorite pepperoni rolls are, and it's whatever school they went to.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing. I hate that you didn't have this across the border.
We didn't.
You were 5 minutes away from us, and they didn't do it at your
I
school.
wasn't. It wasn't even that.
It's like right there.
It wasn't even that. I am very interested in that because we made pepperoni rolls here. We were like, okay, well, let's get some like pizza dough-esque thing, and we'll put the pepperoni in there and put a little cheese in there, and we had a little olive oil, and I think we put basil on top, and it had like a nice little like drizzle of some cheese and some different stuff, just like right on top. And then we dipped those, and I really liked those. But I had a coworker that made ones that I didn't care for as much, but everybody loved.
It was a school recipe?
It was a school recipe, and they made it in a school cafeteria in Beckley.
Dude, I swear, you would see people at school that you had not seen all year for pepperoni cheese roll day. They would come, and oh my God, the line, because some days a lot of people wouldn't actually eat the school lunch, so the line was like pretty short. You would be like backed up through like the second floor hallway just trying to get down into the cafeteria because people were going to try to get pepperoni cheese rolls. I don't even know, like, I haven't had one of theirs since 2011 when I graduated, but I remember the last pepperoni cheese roll day. We all were like, it was like such a somber day. It was like, this is the last pepperoni cheese
like the
roll
last
day before
supper.
graduation. Yeah, like we knew because it was like a couple weeks before graduation. And I remember I think we all bought 2 lunches that day.
Gosh.
It was like $1 for lunch, and we all brought $2.
All this talk, man, is making me hungry for some pepperoni rolls now.
Listen,
Oh, man, with
where's
a
the
little bit
closest Sheets? Cross Lanes?
Yeah, Cross Lanes, but nobody wants to go to Cross Lanes because it's like it's more traffic than actual Charleston. You can go downtown. They got Graziano's. They do there was one of the first pepperoni roll I ever had was from Graziano's downtown, and it's like this big pepperoni roll, and they dump sauce on it, and then they melt this huge slice of cheese. It's as big as a sandwich
right now listening to this.
And it's really delicious. But it's always crowded in there, and all the lawyers that have their offices downtown in the middle of all the actual businesses, they like to eat there. So, Austin, that's it for today. Don't forget to email us your questions at vaultboyswv@gmail.com. Check us out on social media at vaultboyswv and tell your friends. All of those links and everything are now included in the podcast description. So if you want to get to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, see what we're doing there. I know I've got interesting pictures to post this week on Instagram. I've got some fun facts on Twitter. I've got a lot of stuff going on. Make sure to check that out. Follow those. It's different content for all the different things. And if you want to listen to us on any of the other services, I have all of those posted.
Check us out.
In the description below as well. So for now, the vault door is closing. Stay safe.
I'm Aaron Mankey, and this...
I'm Aaron Mankey, and this
Lore.
is another episode of the Lore Podcast.
He draws it out. I'm Aaron Mankey, and this is Lore.
Solierna
Solierna.
from NPR Live. Weekdays, we come to you with a series of vegetarian recipes, no-kill shelter locations,
Oh, man.
and the many things that Congressman Jeff Lieberman has said in the past week.